I finished grade 8 in 1936, 7, in there anyway, in the late 30s. And that was right when the Depression, I can remember going to that little country school when the wind was so bad and the dust was going around, and I could see the dust banks on in the ditches and everything. It was like snowbanks, only it was all ridged from the wind and everything. So the dust was terrible. And then coming home, my mother would say, well, there's no use dusting, so it's going to come in again. But that was about the dust would come into the rooms and everything, and we tried, it was hot at the same time, and then the grasshoppers came, and it was the same kind of thing, you know, the grasshoppers were so thick and they would be all around, and I can remember going with my father in this school cart that we had and tossing out poison to the grasshoppers. Liquid poison that would be on the plants and so on, so that hopefully some of them would be gone. That was the Depression time that I remember, and how it affected me, you know, the kind of thing that, and yet it was during those years, in 1937, I think, 36, that I went to Swift Current. And my parents, of course, you know, you had to pay your board, room and board, well. And of course, it was in the 30s, so money wasn't the same as today. But nonetheless, my parents didn't have money for that. That's why I was so amazed, so surprised that I got to go. I'm not even the oldest, and I got to go to that. I'm the second oldest, and eventually I became the middle. By that time, I had a younger sister, so I'm the middle girl, all 3 girls. And here I get to go to Swift Current, to board. And my parents paid for my board, I gather now, through bringing produce from their gardens in the fall, potatoes and things like that, and beets and carrots maybe. They brought some chickens every once in a while. If they butchered, they brought something. We were 80 miles away from there, but they didn't come up every weekend by any means. But they came up at Thanksgiving time and at Christmas time, and they would always bring something like that. And then we worked for the rest of it. You know, I can remember helping the sisters in the garden, putting out the garden plants, and helping with the cleaning of the classrooms and everything like that. I remember something about people not having enough to eat, and I remember my father going at one time to the place where the rail would stop, where the train would stop there at a little town called Instow or Scotsguard, and there would be a lot of people that came to get let's see, what was it, salted herring, some kind of fish that was coming from the east, from Newfoundland maybe, or the Nova Scotia, and that was given out on relief, you see. Now my family, there was enough pride in the family that they weren't on relief. They were managing somehow or other. I don't know how they did really, because I remember one time my brother-in-law showed me the income tax statements that my father sent in, and where it said income or anything, he just put no crop.
Oh wow!
You know, so there was a lot of pioneer spirit. See, my parents were both homesteaders in their own sense. My father came from the United States, from Minnesota, and with his family, and the whole family homesteaded on the farm where my dad and my mother lived in the end, and where I was born. And my mother came from Stratford, Ontario. She came out west to keep house for her brother, who was on a homestead about 3 miles away from us. And then she just came out to help him once when he wasn't well. And then she went back again. But I think during that time she had met my dad, and within the next year or something like that, she was back again. And this time it ended up in a marriage. So that's what we know about the background. But you know, that stock, that pioneer stock, were ready for anything in a way. Like my father showed me the little sod cabin that I'm not sure who lived in at the very beginning, but whoever of the Hengel family came up to stay over the year. I think you had to stay over a winter or something like that, in order to win your homestead, to be able to claim it and so on. It was a little sod shack that we used as a hen house after. And then after that, the story goes, and I know it's true, that We sent to Eaton's for our house. That happened in Alberta, I understand, too. I read an item in the paper not too long ago about the catalogue houses that came from through the Eaton's catalogue and so on. And you ordered the house you wanted. It came the lumber came to the nearest railroad station. You went over there and got all that, and the plans had to be somewhere. And see, my father came from a family of 4 boys and 1 girl, so they were able to put it together, I guess, and they were growing up by that time. So we lived in that catalogue house, in the Eaton's catalogue house.